been quite an eventful series of days, in particular regarding one Kevin McCarthy. The bitter battle to confirm Representative Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker is finally over, and the groundwork has been laid for the 118th Congress. But a multi day, historically long process laid bare the divisions and potential issues McCarthy and House Republicans face as they seek to pass legislation, launch investigations, and get reelected in 2 years. So, what lies ahead for McCarthy, the GOP, and Democrats? Here are 6 things to watch as Speaker McCarthy takes his seat. How much did the Speaker battle weaken McCarthy? The House Freedom Caucus has the power for the first time since Democrats won the House in 2018, and the far right group wasted no time asserting itself, providing a glimpse of the issues McCarthy will confront as he takes over as the weakest speaker in recent memory. The caucus of hardline conservatives has put McCarthy between a rock and a hard place as he attempts to manage the unruly group and deal with bipartisan legislation that is likely to come over from the Senate, which will have to be cobbled together with 60 votes and will be, by its nature, more moderate. What happens if the Senate sends over a spending deal later this summer that isn't palatable to the deal McCarthy struck with House conservatives? Will he be willing to shut down the government, which Freedom Caucus members will likely be for him to do? How much will he be willing to fight with the one vote threshold for a motion to oust him hanging over his head? McCarthy's goal for Speaker was to win the gavel. No one questions that, including his allies. Now, the essential question to watch is how far will McCarthy go to keep hold of the speakership? Whether he cost himself a long and extended tenure in the position remains to be seen. Debt limit, debt limit, debt limit. The looming effort to increase the debt ceiling will likely be the ultimate test the coming year for the California Republican and will prove consequential in answering how long his tenure will last. This week's drawn out adventure to name a speaker is already causing some in the GOP agita over what's I think they meant agenda. They have AGITA over what's to come when it's time later this year to raise the nation's borrowing limit, an issue that caused the party's intense consternation in 2011 when the U.S. credit rating was dinged for the first time in history. You're looking at a preview of coming attractions. Representative David Joyce, Republican of Ohio, took the Hill amid the series of failed votes before a deal was reached. The Treasury Department has not yet said when exactly the U.S. will reach the debt limit, but it is expected to be sometime after July, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Conservatives on Friday declined to reveal specifics about the deal struck with leaders in recent days, but a number of them indicated that cuts to mandatory spending programs such as Social Security and Medicare, here we go again, will have to be part of any package or else. There will be no clean debt ceiling increase, that's for sure. Representative Scott Perry, Republican of Pennsylvania, chairman of the Freedom Caucus, told reporters on Friday. Representative Chip Roy, Republican of Texas, a fellow holdout until Friday, indicated that they would hold McCarthy's feet to the fire over the cuts. It's safe to say that we believe there ought to be specific economic limits on spending attached to a debt ceiling increase, Roy said, adding that the framework serves as the template by which we're going to be holding him accountable. Relationship with McConnell. While McCarthy deals with hardliners day to day, he will also have another key relationship to manage in the coming months, one with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. The two men and their leadership styles are like oil and water. McConnell, the record breaking GOP leader, has led his conference with a much firmer hand in recent years, a stark contrast to McCarthy, whose path to success has centered on backslaps and fundraising prowess in lieu of bedrock political philosophy. In addition, the two have clashed a number of issues in recent months, ranging from handling of the 2022 year-end effort to fund the government to how to deal with former President Trump to Ukraine funding. The newly minted speaker also opposed a number of items McConnell helped marshal through the upper chamber in the 117th Congress. Headlining those were the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, which McConnell heralded on Wednesday along President Biden in Kentucky, gun violence legislation in response to the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and the $280 billion Chip and Science Act to boost domestic semiconductor production. Nevertheless, aides for both members have said the two have a good, cordial relationship. One GOP leadership aide told The Hill in October that the two tried to meet at least once every congressional work period. The Senate GOP leader also drew his support behind McCarthy to win the top job before 2022 ended. So this article is fairly lengthy, and I'm gonna just address the 6 questions that it has here because I feel like I've read enough. Um, Going back to the first question, which was How much did the speaker battle weaken McCarthy? Well, it I wouldn't say it weakened him because he's already weakened. If you have a Democratic majority in the Senate and a Democratic president, you're probably not going to pass anything if you're the Republican Speaker of the House. But what it did was it showed that a couple of members, five, six, seven, eight people, didn't really like him that much over stuff that, as far as I can tell, didn't have that much to do with policy. Um, and that if they hold out long enough, they can get some concessions. But I mean, I don't think he was too hurt by that. This is just how this stuff is run. You sometimes have people who don't like what you're doing, and they have a right to not vote for you if they don't think you're going to be respectful of their agenda. So the debt limit, debt limit, debt limit. Well, we already know what he's going to do. He's going to do the same thing all the Republicans do, which is talk about how, oh my God, this is so expensive. All these social programs, that's obvious. His relationship with McConnell, pretty much the same thing. The only I'd say their relationship really is not going to matter because McConnell's not going to. He's known as the obstructionist, right? He's not known for really passing anything. So maybe if McCarthy gets something passed in the House, he can try to maneuver McConnell to support it. And I can't imagine what they could. I guess what I'm getting at is I would be more interested in their relationship and the differences that they have if McConnell was still Senate Majority Leader, because then they could actually pass things, and then if they have Biden as president, then they can work to override it together in Congress. But it they're not going to have a relationship if the Senate can't pass. The conservatives in the Senate can't pass anything. I'll put it that way. It doesn't matter. Ukraine funding, he's going to back it and support it because that's what they do. Um, will Democrats rescue McCarthy on must-pass bills? Absolutely not. Um, we are in an extremely partisan era, and unless you're talking about a bill that is, because even with the government you know what? I take it back. Outside of the government funding, which even there might be some debate on that because of certain things the Republicans want to cut. You're not going to see Democrats like really try to work with him because for what? Anytime you have something, he votes against it. Anytime he has something, you're expected to support it or hear it openly. No, so they're probably only going to maybe work with him when it comes to a government shutdown or avoiding one. And where does McCarthy take his relationship with Trump? Well, while Trump is running for president in the primary, he's going to be outspoken against him. Oh my God, insurrection. Same thing with McConnell, right? And you know what? To be fair, McCarthy to me will probably be neutral, like just not say anything. Let the seeming, and I'm just speculating, the Trump versus the DeSantis thing play itself out. But if Trump wins, which I don't think he will, but if Trump were to win the nomination, you're going to see McCarthy go right back to bootlicking and it is the return of our leader because that's what he does. He is another ambitious politician who has no actual principles, and for that reason will go along with anything else. Whatever it took to be speaker, he was willing to do. And it's just another example that this stuff is not about issues and trying to help people. It's just who can get the bigger job and who can get their face on TV and make the most money from doing nothing except enriching themselves in these offices. That's just all this is. So you're not going to McCarthy's speakership is going to be as eventful as any other run-of-the-mill speaker. Just he's the person who can't do anything because the Democrats have the Senate and the White House, and will get rewarded for not doing anything by virtue of still being the party leader.